Most people think their Google Ads account is secure. They've got passwords, maybe even two-factor authentication. But that's like locking your front door and keeping the windows wide open, guys. But let's lock it all down the same way we do for every single client. What's going on, guys? It's with Jerry the Admin coming back at you with a brand new video. And today we're going to do something super important. If you're managing client ad accounts or even just running your own, this video could save your business. Because guys, once a hacker gets in, they're not just running shady ads, they're stealing your billing info, they're stealing your data, and even locking you out. Guys, there's loads of other horror stories like this, and I'm going to go through how we can lock down our Google Ads accounts, how we can lock down our Google Suite to make sure that we have the best security for our business and our clients. Fortunate side effect is, guys, most of the time you won't even know it's happened until it's too late, guys. Let's make sure that you never have to deal with that nightmare. So stick around, guys. We're going to get into it today. So guys, by the end of today, you will learn proper Google Ads Manager setup to make sure that your Google Ads account is super secure and super set up, guys. Smart access roles so that you can protect Google Analytics 4, Google Tag Manager, and Google Ads. Two-factor authentication done correctly. Our tips and tricks on password vaults. Making sure that you offboard any new team members with very vigorous process. Make sure that they no longer have access to those accounts. Device and network hygiene and ongoing breach response planning. So guys, grab your copies and grab your hats. It's time to spin up some more magic. Woo! So guys, first of all, I wanted to demonstrate how potentially these hackers can get in, okay? And if you guys want to watch a video on how we do this with the meta ad system, okay, how we maximize security there, check the video card in the top corner, which will give you a step-by-step exactly how we lock that down. Okay, but this is specifically Google. And the phishing attempts here are slightly different, okay? So phishing is one of the #1 ways that hackers can get in. And phishing essentially means a message or an email that you think is from a legitimate source that is a deceptive attempt to steal your personal information. So here is some documentation from Google themselves as to how to avoid phishing. And the big thing here, guys, that I want to draw your attention to: never respond to requests for private information. Google will not do this, guys. Okay, if Google is emailing you asking for any of this information, they are not Google. I'm going to show you now some examples of some phishing emails of how Google has tried to contact us to get us to submit our details to them as phishing emails. Very, very important to be vigilant, guys. We need to be super vigilant. Here is a demonstration, guys, and the biggest example that we see of phishing. Okay, other people pretending to be the Google Ad consultants or the Google Ad specialists. You might see on your Google Ad account, if you qualify, if you're spending enough money, that Google will assign you a Google Ad Manager. And one of the biggest examples of phishing attempts that we see is people pretending to be our Google Manager. So really, really important, guys, to look out for this stuff. We should look out at the big glaring thing for phishing emails is typically they do have spelling mistakes. Typically, they come from an erroneous email and that isn't the domain of which they are emailing you from. And it's really, really important, guys, to not click on any buttons, okay? Because that is where the phishing attack happens. As soon as you click on that link or click on that button and you engage with that person, you could potentially be at breach, okay? So it's one of the things to look out for to avoid and be preventative around these measures, okay? We're going to be putting in a lot of security measures, a lot of protections across our accounts. But guys, it's very, very important that your team knows what to look out for when it comes to phishing from Meta and Google, how to deal with that, okay? So always report it and report back to the team and never ever click on those links. We do at the AdWizard agency very stringent security training so that everybody knows what to look out for and to ensure that all systems are protected as much and as best as they can be, right? So everything that we're going to be going through today within our teams and how we work this is that everybody gets a checklist that they then need to check off to ensure that every single preventative measure has been actioned. And then they sign a security and protection declaration, which is a formal acknowledgement of the protection and security training that they have received, and to acknowledge that they have implemented every single thing within these lists. The reason is that as an agency owner or as a business owner, you don't want to be comfortable. You want everybody to have their own security responsibility, okay? Anything happens, guys, there could be big consequences to this. If companies suing ad agencies, there are virtual teams working, they get compromised, and that affects the client. If you don't have these preventative measures, could have their account compromised so that your whole team looks very, very bad. Or even worse, they could sue for the data breach. So it's really, really important that you have all of these things in place, guys. We see a more legitimate Google Ads expert email. Okay, here's what to look out for. So you've got your customer ID, right? if there is no ID recognition, guys, then there's a good likelihood that it could be a phishing email. So there are some things to look out for. I'm going to show you a few more examples. Okay, so I'm going to rattle through these, right? Here is an example of a phishing email. Okay, it doesn't follow the same format. There is no custom ID number. This could be a phishing email, guys. So what we do here is we report this to Google. We report this to the team. Hey, guys, we've seen this email. We have not scheduled a time. Okay, do not click this button. Okay, we cannot verify the authenticity of this email. And that is how phishing gets you guys. If they hoodwink you into thinking their official partners, okay, has a Spider-Man thumbnail. What partner guy, what Google ad consultant has a Spider-Man thumbnail as a Gmail thumbnail, right? So these are some of the things to kind of look out for, guys, okay? I'm going to share another example now of another phishing email that is slightly different, okay? Here, again, it has the same kind of format, has this scheduler time and all those things that you might look out for within a typical email from Google themselves, okay? But I wouldn't trust this myself because we don't see any ID numbers that we can verify is attached to our ad account, okay? As the information they're giving to us, and we can verify that in the email. This doesn't have any of that. All it says is scheduler time. At this point, I think is fraudulent. So do not click on this link, like I said, and these are some of the things to look out for, guys. And don't get me wrong, guys, like there could be a phishing email that looks like this that is legitimate, but here's the things that you're looking out for, okay? Now, xwf.google.com, okay? That's the official email for Google consultants, okay? So look out for this. Okay, now we're in the Google Ads Manager and Google Ads, Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, Google Merchant Center, Google Data Studio, all of these Google Suite tools. All these have hyper aggressive and vigilant security and protection measures. Okay, this goes beyond just two-factor authentication, guys, which I really hope that you guys have. But if you don't, I'm going to go through that as well. Really important that we have our accounts maximize the security. The cyber attacks and fraudulent behavior is becoming a lot more common, and we hear horror stories all the time of some of our clients being hacked, getting locked out of ad accounts, having their personal information changed, and then the hackers running ads to our behalf using our account without our consent, okay? And you don't want to be in this position, guys. So this is what this video is for. Hopefully give you some understanding as to what you need to do in order to protect your ad account. Okay, so first of all, you're going to go to the left-hand side here. You're going to go to admin, and then you're going to go to access and security. Okay, you're going to click here. Here, you will see everybody who has been added to your ad accounts. Okay, and there are a number of things I would like to reinforce in this instance. Okay, as you can see here, my access here is a Gmail access ad account, and this is not best practice. Okay, the best practice is to have business email domain and to attach that, and not a common Gmail or Hotmail email. Okay, so this is my tip number one, guys, is that if you're using a basic simple email like a gmail.com, okay, and you haven't registered your domain and you don't have an email address for your domain, that you do this because this decreases your likelihood to be phished and be attacked, guys. Okay, so a big tip that Google even recommends themselves is never to use a Gmail account, never to use a Hotmail account or any other generic default email provided domains. You want to have here, as you can see, a specific email that is connected to your domain. So that is my tip number one, guys. Okay, my tip number two is to ensure you want at least 2 admins that you highly trust. Each of those admins has really vigorous security measures, but you have at least 2. This is really important just in case one admin gets locked out. You still have the other backup admin there to take control if they need to. Everybody else, guys, everybody else, you need 2 admins that have full control of everything. The other users need separate access levels. Okay, as you can see here, I have a standard access level. This means that I won't have the same privileges that an admin will in order to add new people, right? There's financial access levels, so you can add new card payment details connected to the admin. Another example, in this instance here, okay, we have many different admins, and you want to make sure that everybody has different access levels, okay? In this account, we have 3 admins, okay, so we need to reduce one of those. Everybody else has standard or billing access to the account, okay? So super important, we have 2 admins. Everybody else has the appropriate access level and does not get automatically admin status just as they're added to the account. You only have 2. Admin status means they could change anything in the account. Okay, either of those 2 email addresses would need to be compromised in order to gain access to this ad account. But if any of the other people that are connected to the ad account get compromised, the hackers will not have access or will not have permissions to change anything dramatic. Okay, so that is my next tip, guys, is to make sure that everybody else there is set as at the appropriate access level and does not have admin access as a standard. Now, guys, we're going to head over to here to the security tab, okay, because this is going to tell us some additional security that might need to be looked at. Here we go. Here we can see some additional tips and tricks, much like I have also recommended here. It's saying here of personal email accounts shouldn't be used, and that is also what I endorse. I recommend that everybody has two-step verification turned on. This is a non-negotiable at this point. Everybody should have this turned on. There's no point just having SMS two-step verification, but also through the Authenticator app, Google Authenticator app, or via WhatsApp. These are additional steps that you can put in place within your two-step verification to ensure that your Google Ad account is protected. Human identity verification is always on. Okay, and right at the bottom here, we have allowed domains. This means that if you do have a business email outside of Gmail, you want to tell Google that these email addresses are permitted. Whatever the domain is, .com of the email address, that needs to be added in here. So he added domains here that we can see. Obviously, we have to add in google.com because a couple of the users are using Gmails, but we need to reduce this, guys. We need to cut this out. This is not best practice, okay? So here, we need to turn this off because gmail.com is super highly used. And what we're doing is specifying only the allowed domains that can have access here. So this is the additional security measure that Google has, is that you need to actually specify which domains are allowed here. So this is the business domains. Okay, you type this in here, you add the domain, and then if somebody gets added to the account, only if their domain is permissible is that person allowed to be added. But if you go anywhere else, any new here, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you never miss any more important updates. We're here many times a week. Our business owners, online advertisers, digital marketeers get the best from the online advertising, paid media, and digital marketing strategies. But without further ado, let's get on with the video, bro. Some other tips that I would recommend here, guys, is that never, ever, ever share user logins. Okay, what I mean by that is do not have multiple people being able to share the same email address, being able to share the same access login. Everybody needs to have their own separate access login, okay, that has their own separate two-factor authentication and all those things, okay? Make sure that all of this stuff is set. Guys, as part of this, as I have said, there is typically a checklist, okay, that we want every single team member to fill out to make sure that they have adhered to all of these things. Everybody signs a declaration of security and protection to say that we have protected our devices and our accounts as much as we can, guys. Okay, it's really, really important that everybody has that responsibility and that ownership of security on their device. Guys, my next tip and trick is to make sure that you have a password management system. Okay, we use LastPass because it's very, very user-friendly. It means that everybody can get access to specific folders that they will need without having access to all of the other passwords, okay? So we store all of our logins and passwords in LastPass. This isn't a sponsored video, but we love LastPass because it allows us to add multiple people into the account, and then everybody gets their own access to the accounts that they need, okay? Really, really important as well that we change passwords, guys, okay? This is my next tip, guys. Every 3 to 6 months, set calendar invite in everybody's calendars. They need to change their passwords at least every 6 months, but if not every 3 at the ideal. So change your passwords vigorously and then use the password management tool like LastPass to generate a really complex and lengthy password. It will get stored automatically here, so you won't need to remember it, but it's really important to have not just to change your passwords, but every single time to have really complex passwords that are super encrypted, that they can't be hacked and can't be replicated, okay? And every single account needs to have a different password, okay? That is something I cannot iterate more, is that sometimes you will have the same password for different accounts, and this is what I'm saying, guys. We cannot do this anymore, okay? In 2025, especially going forwards, we will see a lot of cybersecurity problems, and we can prevent those, we can eliminate those preventatively by being forward thinking and thinking 2 steps ahead. Okay, so this is exactly what we're doing, is that we're creating a password management tool that everyone has different accesses to, and we're asking everybody to change the passwords to something super unpredictable and super hard to crack, and then storing those passwords and changing them in the password manager every 3 to 6 months. Okay, so super, super important that we also do that, guys. If you have a security admin, which I also recommend, okay, in every single team, if you appoint somebody who's in charge of the security in your accounts, then that person can be responsible for ensuring that everybody's checked the checklists, to ensure that the account securities are maintained, and to ensure that the password manager are well maintained. Okay, it's also really important that only a couple of people have access to this password manager, and the password manager itself has 2-factor authentication. Okay, and what we do is that we have different folders for different clients, different team members work on those clients. So some people have access to the things that they need, and they don't have access to everything else. And that is super important, guys. And one of my top tips is to ensure that you have password protection fully mapped out across the team and different access levels implemented. This is something else I would like to quickly go through, guys. If any of your team members are leaving, it's very, very important that you have a process in place that allows your revocation of their access so that they don't compromise the account in any way. As soon as somebody leaves, but you make sure that you revoke and remove their access very quickly so they don't compromise the account in any way. My recommended steps here are to revoke the access very, very quickly, to remove any agency access when, for example, in the Google Ad Manager here under Managers, the Managers section in Access and Security, this is another section to check through. If you're working with an agency, they may add their agency account as a manager here, so this is very important to also look at. Revoke the access if you're no longer working with an agency. We need to reset any credentials. You need to tell the client that the account access has been removed to reaffirm this to the client. That should be ticking all the boxes, guys. That way, the person that has been offboarded should not have any more access to the accounts that you have access to. Okay, guys, I just want to go through a couple more things. Okay, so if your team is virtual and they're working in cafes or external places that isn't in the office specifically, it's really, really important that we have certain procedures and measures in place to ensure tight security on a personal device. Okay, tight security on a personal device and any networks they're connected to. So if somebody likes to sit in cafes, okay, you need to make sure that they have the encryption on their device. Okay, so you need a password access. If I open up my MacBook, I need password access to get in what's inside, and the same with Windows. For example, if you've got a laptop, make sure that there is a password encryption on there. Make sure that the screensaver turns on after less than 30 seconds. So if your computer is inactive for 30 seconds, you walk away, that the computer goes into standby sleep mode where there is a password needed to reboot it after 30 seconds, because people do forget, and people do forget that their laptop is turned on. Maybe there's some really highly sensitive data on there, or they're working on some ads that have some client data in there as well. If they're walking away, going to talk to somebody else, going to grab another coffee, for example, okay, their computer shuts down as soon as they walk away, even if they forget. Okay, so to have these measures in place as well, if you guys are working in a cafe or you're working in a virtual office, right, to make sure that these security measures are also in place. Okay, this is also part of the checklist that we get the team to adhere to, because we have no control over where people will be, what kind of public networks they'll be connecting to. So you want to make sure that everybody who is connecting to any public networks has the best, most vigorous security for you and your clients and your business. Okay, I'd also recommend here to make sure that everyone has a VPN if they're using a public network. This again adds additional security. And the biggest thing and most important thing, if you are a Windows user or you're not using a Mac, to make sure that you have virus protection or some kind of firewall enabled. Okay, Windows' own Windows Defender application, to my understanding, is very, very good. So at a basic level, have this. If you want additional third-party systems like Norton, for example, right, you can also have those, but make sure that you have some kind of antivirus and some kind of firewall on of every single team member's device. Okay, very, very, very important. There's some other things that I'd go through here as well, guys. Okay, for example, if you have G Drive, or you're using G Drive, or you're using Notion, for example, and people need access to different things, okay, different types of work, different types of storage, that you don't just have everyone can see everything if they have the link turned on, right? If we go here, for example, under video and then share, you'll be able to see the settings of this. Okay, so this particular folder is restricted apart from these people who have access. And this is the tightest security that we can have on G Drive. Okay, if we add, for example, here, anyone with the link, okay, it means anybody with the link can access it. Not only that, but if you click anyone with the link and then change it to editor, it means that anybody on the internet with that link can change what is happening here. So it's super, super important that you keep it to restricted. If it's highly confidential, or if you need to, an absolute topmost security, that you keep it restricted and you just invite the email addresses to those people who can have access. Okay, and one of the final things that I recommend, guys, okay, this isn't, all of these tips are not just applicable to the Google Ads account. Okay, make sure that you have two-factor authentication and the same settings applied to your Google Ads account, to your Google Analytics account, to your Google Tag Manager account, to your Google Data Studio, to your Google Merchant Center, everywhere. Okay, any Google Suite application that you are using, ensure that you have the correct security settings enabled in that Google account. Okay, because like I said, cybersecurity is a huge problem now, and you want to be protected to mitigate any harm doing or any wrongdoings. You are responsible, guys. So I'm trying to reinforce this responsibility right now. And hopefully this is giving you some good understanding as to what you need to do to adhere to the best practice or account security and account protection. The last tips I'd like to bring to you guys are some ongoing internal security best practice that you can have within your team, or you can think about a little bit for your business or your client accounts. Okay, here are some tips, guys. Okay, I've mentioned it before, but make sure you think about potentially having one security lead, one person, one security admin that is responsible for the password management system, that is responsible for the adherence to the best practice across the team, that is responsible for the security of the business and the client. If you can't do that, maybe you have to do that yourself, but make sure there is somebody responsible to this. We cannot negate this. It has to be super, super important for you to adhere to this. Some other tips that I recommend is that a security person can also share tips or any potential hacks or any potential news around some fraudulent or cyber attacks that the team should know about, any potential phishing emails that they might hear about, to make sure that the team knows about this. If the team gets any phishing emails, that they tell the team. It's very, very important that we have open communications around this and make sure that anybody in the team that suspects that something is awry, that they do not click on any links. They do not click on any links, guys. Really, really important. What I'd also recommend potentially is having a backup plan if anything does happen. Having a simple incident plan to say, okay, this account was breached, here's how we'd handle it. Just to have a risk assessment backup plan would be highly advantageous. You can go to the client and say, hey guys, we've got the best practice in terms of security and protection and everything else, and we have protocols that tell us what to do if anything does happen. This mitigates any risk, mitigates any disasters happening on your watch. And that's something that I would recommend is that you have a plan in place if account does get breached, that you know exactly what to do and the team knows exactly the behavior and the expectations of them when this happens, if it happens. Okay, I really, really hope, fingers crossed for you guys, that it does not, but if it does, that you have these backup procedures in place. Again, another tip and trick, guys, is to run occasional checks, because a lot of the time you'll always get email alerts if there are any changes in the ad account. Okay, if there are any suspicious behaviors within your emails, okay, make sure that you check those. Make sure that you can review account history as well, so make sure that you can see anybody accessing the account, and it draws up anybody who doesn't or shouldn't have access. Okay, really, really important that you look at those and keep a close eye on that stuff. Guys, the final thing that I would like to recommend would be at the Google Ads Manager, you check the change history. Okay, make sure you appoint this to the admin responsible for security across the team. Okay, here is where you can find that. So under campaigns, go to change history. Here is a log of every single change that has happened to the account. Okay, and really, really important that you check this on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis, depending on how vigorously you're working on the account, to make sure that only people that you know, like, and trust have been added and are making changes. If you see any suspicious behavior, guys, this is your call to action. Okay, go to your campaigns, to your change history. Every single change that happens in your Google Ads account is logged here. So make sure that you check into this to make sure that there is nothing that has happened, don't know about, for any email addresses that you're not sure of. Okay, so this is my last tip and trick for you guys, is to look at regular basis to ensure you don't see any fishy business, guys. So hit me a comment down below if you got any questions. Guys, if you want to join the waitlist to find out what the team has coming up next, I click a link down below to register your intent of interest to see what the outer team is planning next, guys. If you want to be involved, just join. It is today. Yeah, that's it for today, guys. Everything I have already got understanding is what you need to do to lock and have tight security on your Google Ads account, your Google Analytics, and your Google Tag Manager. Get the Google Suite. Super important. We have super good security, guys. Okay, like I said, these horror stories of people hacking into other people's accounts and stealing their data, and running ads on their behalf without that person being able to get in. Okay, it's something that we hear all the time. So, guys, these are preventative measures that will disable that from happening from you, your business, and your clients. Super important, guys. Cybersecurity, cyber attack are ramping up, and you need to make sure that you and your clients are well protected. So super worth it doing this to make sure everything is safe and secure as much as it can be. Guys, leave me a comment down below if you got any questions. I appreciate and love every single one of you. Thank you so much for the support, guys. Ready, right, Jerry the Ad Wizard. You can catch me on X and Instagram at Jerry Ad Wizard, on LinkedIn at Jerry Griffiths, and at Jerry Dreadlocks everywhere else. If you'd like to watch a video on how to secure your Meta Ads account, I've got a step-by-step walkthrough on how we can secure and make sure that our Meta ad account is super protected as well. Watch this video over here. I've got a step-by-step walkthrough over here. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm your boy Jerry the Ad Wizard, and wherever you are in the world, I bid you peace and love and a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.